How's it going, folks? This week we sit down for a fantastic interview with one of the leads from a play called Funhome, which will be released in the city of Windsor here at Cortisone Theatre this upcoming week. The play is a really super interesting story. We also have a performance video coming up later this week from the play. I don't want to spoil it. Let's just get to the interview. See you on the other side. This and every episode of the AVB Podcast is brought to you by our incredible sponsors. Make sure you find links for them, today's guest, and of course all our other social media down in the description below. You can comment, ask questions that you think we might have missed, and of course don't forget to subscribe and click on that bell to make sure you're getting notifications of all our episodes. Alright, let's get to it. So, hanging out on this episode of the AVB Podcast with my guest, Miss Kaitlyn Karns. How's it going, Kaitlyn?
Good, how are you?
Excellent. So you are, I don't remember your exact title, but what's your title in this project?
In Funhome?
Yeah.
I am playing the lead role of Allison Bechtel.
Oh, that's right. And you're also part of like the
marketing.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got a bunch of hats, as one does in theater.
Yes.
But your background is also sort of pretty diverse. You've been sort of in and out the music scene throughout Windsor, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So I was in and out of the band scene for a little bit there, and then I also do a lot of community theater and a lot of work with the arts and education and the arts and the elderly.
Awesome. Okay, so let's go like we do with most of our guests here. Let's start way at the beginning for you. Way is like yesterday, I guess. Growing up, mom and dad, did you grow up here in Windsor?
I grew up in Kingsville with my mom, and I went to school in Kingsville and then went to high school in Leamington, actually, to Leamington District, because there was no arts programming at Kingsville. Okay. So I was like, and I knew the teachers at Leamington, so
art was like a big thing to you pretty early on. How did you sort of find your way into this?
I think the first thing I did was a summer camp at St. Clair College. Okay. They had like a music theater summer camp.
How old were you?
I was in grade school, and the first play I ever did, I was in grade 2 in grade school. Okay. And then I did the summer camp,
Really?
Yeah. And
what, like mom and dad like theater people? Like how did this?
No, I don't know. I just kind of did it. I don't know. It just happened.
I guess you're so young at that point, you don't really know what's
whatever,
going on.
Yeah. And then, so I did the summer camp. I kept doing shows at school while I was in grade school. And then the vocal teacher for the summer camp taught at St. Cecile Academy. And she said, you should come take voice lessons from me. So every Saturday morning at 9 a.m., my mom would drive me from Kingsville all the way to St. Cecile in Tecumseh. And I would do lessons. I did lessons there for quite some time, from like grade 3 until...
Was it always just about singing and stuff for you? Like
I also took dance.
Yeah.
And then just kept doing shows at Migration Hall, local shows, and then finally, closer to high school, grade 9, I switched voice teachers. I was like, I'm over the classical voice, I'm over it. And then I switched teachers to Tracy Ayton, who owns this space, when she was still living in Kingsville, and then she introduced me to the Windsor theater scene. Okay. So I did that, and I kept doing shows in high school. I did Les Mis. What else did I do in high school?
Talk to me about the process, though, because like being a kid that young, walking through like theater and going through all the training and all that stuff, like you hear like maybe you've got every once in a while you get some superstar kid athlete that like does the 4 a.m. going to the skate park, you know, like that kind of shit. But for theater, you don't hear about that kind of story as much when it comes to kids, and it seems like you almost very early on took that kind of route.
Yeah.
Am I kind of overstating it a little bit?
No. My teacher at St. Cecile was kind of like a hard ass. Like she was on me quite often, and I did like Kiwanis competitions, and I did all my theory, and it was very strict. Like she had a very clear plan for me. Right. And then I just kind of kept going with it because I loved it, and I wanted to be good, and I wanted to get better, but I found that I didn't really like bloom. Okay. You could say, like, I didn't really find myself as a performer until much later, probably until like grade 12, first year university.
Yeah, so much later, like all the way when we were like 17 years old, like that's like.
I mean, when you start in grade 3, it's quite some time.
But what do you expect from an 11-year-old anyway? Like, you know what I mean?
That's true.
Like,
I have high expectations.
Like, well, I guess. Well, it seems to me like that came from your teacher, though.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, and like if you're investing money into something that you love, you would hope that you also do a good job.
What did you have outside of theater and that sort of
outside of theater, I did horseback riding for a little.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was a family thing though. My grandparents had horses growing up, and some of my family members still do. So I did like rodeo circuits for a hot second.
Okay, so I was gonna say not as serious, but if you're doing even I know even just to get started on that stuff, you gotta really work your ass off.
Yeah, so I did that for a while.
So you're one of those people. You just kind of grab on something and kind of tackle it?
Just do it,
All right, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then when I went to university, I was like, oh, it's too much. So then I just stuck to the theater.
Oh, so you waited until university before you sort of like tied off all the other ends?
Yeah.
And has it been just theater since then?
Yeah.
How long is that now?
Well, I'm still doing it.
No, but how long is it? How long has it been since you've been, when did you start university?
Well, I just graduated, so 4 years.
So, okay, so for the last 4 years you've been
just strictly theater in school.
So I know, like when we talked before we sat down for this, we were talking about your history, and you got involved in like theater in. You tell me, because I'm gonna
Through
screw
school?
it up. Yeah.
Okay, so I just graduated from Drama and Education and Community at the University of Windsor. So that program is really cool because you have to audition to get an interview to get into the program.
Okay.
So it's exclusive. It's very small, one-on-one. But there's a lot of different avenues you could go about within that program. So I was able to have a placement in a grade school and a high school teaching and trying to enhance the curriculum or infuse the curriculum with drama and the arts. And then in second year, I started working for a professor doing research, and his research is based around arts and the elderly.
Okay.
And then I found an interest in that, and then in third year...
Wait. Before we get to third, I want to talk about that.
Okay.
Tell me about that experience.
Arts and the elderly. At first I was like, this is not going to work. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm getting paid to do this. I'm just going to do it.
And what was it that you were doing that you didn't know what you were doing?
I was reading articles for him, summarizing all of his articles, just compiling a bunch of research for a book that this professor was writing.
Okay.
And then I took a class on drama and the elderly that he taught at the university, and I was like, you know what? Okay, I understand where this is coming from.
Give me the idea.
The class is really weird, but it was clown doctoring. Yep.
So like Patch Adams, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in another class that I had, we looked at drama working with the community, whether it be with the elderly or someone with a disability, and how we can use drama to adapt to different situations to make everyone have the same experience.
Okay, what is that for not artsy-fartsy folks? What does that mean?
Making it accessible.
Okay.
And
why?
Because everyone deserves the same experience, no matter if you're 90 years old or 9.
What do you mean? That because you just said a sentence that honestly I want to throw shit at you for. Because no, you don't. When I'm 90, I'm looking for a completely different experience than when I'm 9.
That's true.
So I definitely do not deserve the same experience. If that's what you're telling me, if I get the same shit when I'm 90 that I got when I was 9, I'm done now.
Okay, you know, not the same. You're not going to get the same outcome.
Okay.
But everyone, no matter how old you are, I have found from doing this research, still seeks experiences in their daily life.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
But how does drama, like in your research from this standpoint, from an educational standpoint, and I realize it wasn't your path, it was, you know what I mean? But like, this is what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
There's somebody watching this that goes, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Theater is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of people wasting their time, like dancing around on a stage, and then they go home and applaud for themselves.
Okay.
Right? I don't think that that's true.
Okay.
But that's definitely a way that people look at theater. This isn't news.
No.
Right?
No.
Tell me why that person's an idiot.
Ooh. Oh my god. Well, from someone who does theater, it can be almost therapeutic.
Okay.
It's a release. It's hard work, but it's hard work that I enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then as a spectator, it's entertaining. Mm-hmm. And some people are like, I could never do that. I could never picture myself doing that. So good for you for doing that. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I'm sort of asking you to tie it into like when you bring the idea of theater to the elderly.
To the elderly.
Why would that be a thing that somebody would even be interested in?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at dementia and Alzheimer's specifically, I can't use the term therapeutic because I'm not a therapist.
Right.
In any way.
Yeah.
But there's like reminiscence theater. There's different forms of theater that you can use where you can take someone's story and present it to them, and it'll like trigger memories for them.
Oh wow.
So
okay.
Yeah. Or one time when I was working with the elderly, we made masks or puppets, and a lot of them that made these puppets connected it to someone that they knew from their past and based their puppet off of that person.
Okay.
And maybe they hadn't thought about that person or remembered them earlier that week. Mm-hmm. But a lot of, initially in second year when I started that research, a lot of it was looking at patients with dementia and Alzheimer's, and how that is an additional tool for them to help them remember.
See, now that becomes way more important, right?
Yeah.
That's it. I'm the reason I'm sort of like trying to drill down to this is part of the conversation that we had before when we were talking about this. There's a segment of our community that gets sort of forgotten about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're dealing with it.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of your experiences through that.
It was hard at first. Like when I went in there for my last, so in fourth year, I had a directed studies project that I had to do. So it was a big research project, took all year to do. So I went into Amica, Windsor on Riverside Drive, and I went in there with 2 other students once a week, and we would prepare drama workshops.
Okay.
The challenge is that all of our participants are at different levels, whether that be physically, anything. Like some of them might not be able to hear as well as others.
Right.
So the content and the material we were bringing in, we had to be really careful, because if it was too easy, they would be like, oh, that's stupid.
Right.
This is stupid. I don't want to do that. I don't want to sing this song. Like, I'm leaving. I'm going back to my room. Or it'd be way too complex, and they would be like, I don't get it. And then that makes them feel uncomfortable or frustrated, and that's not the goal at all. It was, so finding the balance was really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard. And having people come, it was drop-in, so having people come back.
Yeah.
If they,
Was it tough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really hard.
What was your experience like with the people? Like give me one of the, and I mean don't use names and stuff, but give me one of the really sort of heartwarming stories, and then give me one of the heartbreaking ones.
There is a woman.
Actually, go the other way. Give me the heartbreaking one first, so that we can end happy.
Oh, okay. There was a woman, I will never forget her ever. She lives on the 2nd floor, which is assisted living, so she needs a little more help. She has no family left around here. And she just they like talking about themselves. They love talking about their stories that they have to share. And I just connected with her so much. There was just something about this woman that I was like, oh my gosh. So the first time I ever met her was at a share and tell, so they could bring something in and talk about it, like a show and tell. Yeah. And she told this story about, she was a nurse for the Army through one of her local churches that she was a part of. And that's what she did her entire life. She got crammed onto a boat, sent wherever. She went to India for quite some time to take care of people out there, and then she came back. And she like just talked about how one time she went to a Spitfires game and she won a 50-50 draw, and she could either win like $1 or a dog, and so she picked the dog, obviously. But I will never forget this woman, and like we would sit, they did like a little choir performance, so I went to the choir performance and she just like sat next to me, and I was cold, and she gave me her sweater, and she was singing along, and she started crying to one of the songs. I was like, I will never forget this woman. She was incredible.
So that sounded like the good one.
I don't have many sad ones. They're all pretty good.
You know what? That's a good thing, because all right.
Because none of them, like, they're all still alive as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because then I wouldn't be able to. That's the funny thing is, like, my professor was like, okay, during your research, if anyone passes, you can't use them as research.
Because you never come to the conclusion.
Yeah. So, it's sad that a lot of them don't have much family around anymore, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we were exciting. They knew we were always coming every week.
Right.
They love routine. So that's something for them to look forward to each week.
Right.
There's a gentleman who was a professor from the University of Windsor living there with his wife, and he was so smart. He really challenged us in the best way possible. There's another woman.
Talk to me about that. What do you mean by that? What were
it was interesting because his wife had Parkinson's and early onset dementia. So he would bring her to our activities, but she couldn't participate to the capacity that he could.
Mm-hmm.
And he would be the first one to tell us what was wrong with our activity. Yeah. Basically. And he was also the first to admit to us that we will never have the same outcome, and it'll be hard for us to get consistent data because of the different people coming in to our sessions. Yeah, he was the first one. He's like, I'm just coming to support you because I know you need this for school. Now as a professor, he's like, I'm coming to do this for you, but like this might not work.
That's funny.
Like,
was he right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely was. And sometimes he was the only one who participated because he was able to.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That must have been tough sometimes.
Yeah, totally. Sometimes it was like really awkward and like dead silence. You're like, okay, so I guess we're not going to do this anymore, and change it.
Yeah.
Last minute, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So how long did you do that for?
So 3 years.
Oh, you did that for
second
for the
year
rest
to
of it?
fourth year, yeah.
So then you just stopped recently.
Yeah, and I when I applied for grad school, I used that for my application.
Yeah. Is that something you would be interested in doing going forward, or you?
Yeah. So I'm going into my Master's of Education.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna see where it takes me. See if I keep on that track or if I change halfway through. We'll see. It's an option.
So talk to me about Corda. You said as you were going through here, when you changed teachers.
So the first show I ever did here was a panto, which is a basically like a parody show. So we did Cinderella. That was the first one I was in, and it involves a lot of audience engagement. Usually one person is in drag. So we did Cinderella, like a spoof version of it. And then I love this space. It's so unique. There's a great community at Corda. So I kept doing shows here for a while. And then I kind of expanded my wings a little outside of Corda and worked with other companies in the area.
Tell me about, because we talk a lot on here about Windsor's music community, and we've had like the folks from ACT, Chris Rabideau and Moya have both been on the show, as you know. Yeah. Talk to me about the Windsor film community. Is it active? Do people like deal with each other really well, or is
in
it?
The theater community?
Yeah, because I know there's a bunch of like there's a lot of different theater groups here in the city, right?
There are a lot of different theater groups.
Is it incestuous, or does everybody sort of want to like kill each other?
No, I don't think people want to kill each other. No, it's very welcoming and very supportive. And there's so many new theater companies popping up all the time. Like Post Productions just opened up. The Edge Productions is newer. Act is really, starting to rise as well. So there's and then you have your OG Windsor Light,
right?
From the beginning kind of thing.
West Side.
No, it's crazy. It's great that there's so many options.
Yeah.
As a performer, you can audition for so many things across. There's so many options.
How is it is it a big community here in Windsor? I for a very brief hint of a flash, I think I auditioned in this room once, back in the early 90s or something. Outside of that, all my theater experience was at Villanova in high school, and then I was done with that shit when I was done high school. So I know there's all these different theater communities, but if somebody was interested in getting involved, what is there to get involved with? There's all these different production companies. Are they all doing different things, or are they all doing the same thing?
No, they're all doing different things.
Okay.
You could get involved. You could start with backstage work. Every theater company is always looking for volunteers.
Right.
Always looking for volunteers. Whether that's helping with costumes or painting or ushering, anything.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always open auditions, so anyone can go if they see the call online. Usually they're on Facebook or on their websites. You can just show up
mm-hmm.
with what you need prepared and audition and see what happens. But yeah, there's lots of options. People are doing straight plays, original works, musicals, anything, book
mm-hmm.
musicals, anything. Yeah.
Are there does it sort of break out? Are there specific companies? Does Corda kind of tend towards certain kinds of shows?
Yeah.
So give me a little bit of a breakdown for that. The different companies. Where would people go to look for what they might be looking for?
Corda has a very wide variety of options. So there's 2 musicals a year.
Okay.
And then they do Extension Corda, which is youth-based theater in the summer. And then there's usually a Shakespeare. They try and do some contemporary, some classics, some obscure, not your typical show, perhaps. Mm-hmm. This, Corda values trying new things and different things that someone else might not do.
Right.
And then you have Windsor Light, for example, who they just recently did Mamma Mia.
Okay.
And now they're doing Elf.
Right.
So, you're more mainstream,
mm-hmm.
you could say. The Edge Productions just did an all-female cast of Henry V.
Okay.
Which,
yeah.
Usually you don't. I've never seen that done before.
Actually, it's funny because was it you that I was talking to that was saying it, trying to do an all-male anything in theater is damn near impossible?
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Where are all the boys in Windsor who can sing and commit to the time? It's a big time commitment. But finding male actors or male singers always seems to be a struggle.
The hardest thing?
I feel like that's not just Windsor, though.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a general struggle.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, stereotypes are definitely huge.
Okay, so talk to me about that. That's a real thing. That's
a
real thing, right?
Yeah. You don't have to be gay to do theater. Anyone can do it.
I think that really, and that was one of the things that I never thought about as I was going through it, because I just like doing theater.
Yeah.
But
you meet so many great people too.
Oh, and I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. In high school, it didn't take me long to figure out that that's where all the chicks were. The stereotype is so stupid, and you know what it is? It's the smart guys that don't do anything to fuck with the stereotype because you don't want to lessen your pool. I think that's why you don't get more guys in. You just go, yep, everybody there's gay. You want to come? No?
No. Not everyone is.
Yeah, no. But you're absolutely right. It is. It's tough to get guys to come in to do this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a solution to that, but I wanted to point it out.
Yeah. come try it. And if you don't like it, then you don't like it. It's not for you.
And it's amazing
fine.
to me because there's so many guys that'll just go like stand up on a karaoke stage and look like a complete idiot with somebody else's shit that won't come out and like put the work in. I think that's the real difference too, right?
Yeah.
Some of it just takes booze.
You gotta want to put the work in too.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a lot of work.
So typical. Well, you know what? Forget typical. Let's move on to the play that you guys are doing now. Give me a little background.
All right. So Funhome is the winner of 5 Tony Awards in 2015.
Oh, congratulations! Oh,
not me. Oh, damn. If it was me, I wouldn't be in Windsor. Right. I've gone.
Oh, well.
I'd be in New York. Anyways, so it's based off the best-selling graphic memoir of the same title, Funhome, written by Alison Bechdel. And
okay, wait a second. You threw a bunch of this is what art people do. This is what we were talking about before. You threw a bunch of fancy-ass words together that made something sound super. Basically, we're talking about this came out as a comic book.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that's important because
very important,
the origin is really important.
Very important.
So, all right, comic book comes out.
Okay,
graphic novel.
Graphic novel.
Sorry, Tony.
Alison Bechdel wrote this comic book, graphic novel, a memoir about her life, growing up in Pennsylvania with her family. Mm. Writes this book, and then Lisa Cron, who wrote the lyrics and the book for the musical, said, I want to turn this into a musical.
Okay.
To Janine Tesori, who wrote the music.
Okay.
And she was like, oh my God, you're crazy. And then they did it, and Alison Bechdel, from what I've read, never thought this would take off in the way it did.
Right.
Ever. I mean, it won 5 Tony Awards.
It's a big fucking deal.
A big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the show is about Alison's life growing up with her father, which in theater you usually don't see a daughter-father relationship.
Right.
Ever. So this is, pretty intense here. And she is gay, and her father is also gay, but is
closeted.
Closeted.
Gotcha.
Yes. He has a wife and 3 kids. Grew up in a tiny, small Pennsylvania town.
So wait, did we just like reveal a spoiler in the fucking play?
No, it's like the first line.
Oh.
Like she comes right out and just
That's
lays
hilarious.
it out for you.
Okay.
And so in the musical, you see Allison at 3 different ages.
Yeah.
You see her at about 9 years old. You see her entering college, and then you see her at 43, current day. During the musical, she's writing.
Okay.
And drawing the memoir throughout the duration of the show. And so it's about looking at her past, but also moving forward at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, and
you play?
Allison.
But there's 3 Allisons.
The oldest one.
Ah, you're the old biddy.
I'm the old one, yeah. So I'm actually on stage the entire show. It's a 1-act.
Right.
No intermission, so I'm out there the whole time.
Right.
Observing everything that is going on, and something that happens triggers a memory from her life that she engages with and interacts with, and can look on her past. She has a line that might sum this up a little better that says she needs real things to draw from because she doesn't trust memory.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I guess my question with the play versus the book is the play isn't a reflection of the book as much as the play is kind of like a take on her creating the book. Is that and then pulls from the story from the book as well?
There's stuff in the memoir that is not
in the play.
And there are some things in the musical that is not, that they had to fill gaps in.
I guess my question is like, and I don't want to tread on terms that are not appropriate for this particular play, but in the novel itself, is the novel just telling the story, or is the novel telling the story with, for lack of a better term, a narrator? You know what I mean? Like in the book, is there the older Allison sort of kind of in the book itself, or is this just a play kind of taking on the experience of going
No,
through
she's
that?
in the.
She's in the book
yeah.
as well. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you take from all of this?
This is a big show. This is probably one of the hardest roles, acting-wise.
Because it's the full thing.
Ever done. It's a beast. It really is. Yeah. It's emotionally draining, but it's also rewarding at the same time. I think everyone can connect to Allison, no matter who you are. And the writing of the show is just amazing. But it's been challenging. It's been really hard.
What's the challenge been?
I'm much younger than she is, first of all. I haven't had any of the same life experiences that she has. Right. I mean, there's a few that anyone
you didn't grow up as a funeral home lesbian?
No, I did not. No. Yeah, no, not at all. But there are things in there that.
By the way, I don't know, because the terms are so weird. I don't know if that's a thing that I just insulted somebody. Like, I don't know if that might be a specific insult, and I just don't know. So if it is, I'm sorry.
No, it was the funeral home. How they got into that. Her father was actually a high school English teacher.
Okay.
And then his father, so Allison's grandfather, owned the funeral home. But when he passed,
they inherited
the funeral home.
And okay, so I'm starting to put some things together now. So it's called Funhome, and that's because they did some because this
That's what they called the funeral home.
Right. So I'm now realizing. So here's the thing: the idea of like the fun funeral home is a cool, kitschy idea for a play, right? That's some shit that would never happen in real life. The problem is this is a memoir based on somebody's actual life. So you're telling me there was a real, because like you walk through a scene, and I don't know if this is spoiling something or not, so if it is, let me know. But there's a thing where there's people popping out of coffins making a TV commercial. So that's a thing they really did? Like I can go on YouTube and find this commercial where they, like, is that have you tried to do that? Have you tried to look up the actual commercial they shot?
Well, in the memoir, it talks about like how the kids, they grew up in the funeral home.
Right.
So like they were always around. They were always helping. There's a part in the musical and in the memoir where it talks about the first time she had seen her first dead body.
Oh yeah, that's the thing that happens in funeral homes, right?
Yeah. And so like this was just like normal. This was normal for them to be surrounded by this environment. So
this woman kind of like grew up in one of the strangest possible situations.
Yeah.
And what's cause here's the thing, you start talking about these and they can get boiled down to coming of age story, right? Like,
yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of them. What am I taking from this one that I wouldn't be able to take from something else? Like, what would I take from this that I wouldn't take from Stand By Me? You know what I mean?
Well, one thing that I left out that's important is that her father, so Allison came out to her father while she was in college, to her mother and father. And 4 months later, her father killed himself. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, you know, as she's coming to terms with her own sexuality, and he's never been able to, you know, live that life that she is now able to live, she never really got to connect with him. And I feel like this memoir was her way of closing off that chapter. And like her grief, almost.
Connecting something like this to the stuff that you were talking about when you were working at the nursing homes.
Mm-hmm. They might think it's a little crazy, but...
Well, no, but not only that, not just that. I'm finding what I'm searching for here is for a way to ask you about the importance of storytelling, right? Because when you're talking about the work that you were doing in the nursing homes, you're talking about like bringing back memories, having these people being able to connect to the stories of their own lives. And I think some of the reason theater gets bad rap is the wrong term, but I think the reason theater might get sort of pushed aside a little more than like television or movies these days is because theater does sort of like stick to the humanitarian side. Like you can't have an action play. Like they tried it with Spider-Man and they nearly killed 3 people. Like it's
That's true.
right. Like it's the action plays are fun to see or whatever, and you can do them. As a matter of fact, Gavin Booth's wife is in one at Disneyland, right? Like they do these things, and they're but that's not what people think of when they think of theater. And I think the importance of theater, and I'm trying to find a way to ask you about this rather than just like recite all the bullshit that I want to kind of throw out, but. Talk to me about the connection to storytelling and the importance that people sort of like forget about that. Do you understand what I'm asking here? You've seen some things. You've seen what theater can do in like a real life scenario where it's not just people coming in and paying for a ticket. Yeah. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about what you've sort of learned through your journey about
that. No matter how old you are, theater can always provide some sort of experience for anyone. For example, the last show that Corda actually did, called Strangers Among Us, was about the elderly. It took place in a nursing home, or retirement home, and it dealt with dementia and Alzheimer's and dealing with that. So people coming to see the show could be like, either a family member of mine has dementia or Alzheimer's, I've known somebody, or just like the fact that everyone ages. So like there's so many ways you can connect to that. So many ways. Funhome, father-daughter relationship, you see that family dynamic. If you're struggling with your own sexuality or your own coming of age or whatever that may be, there's a song in the show called Ring of Keys. And I was like, and we say everyone has their own Ring of Keys moment. Well, what does that mean to you? Like everyone has their own like light bulb. Aha, this is who I am. Like the first time her Ring of Keys, she saw this woman walk in and she was like, oh my God. At 9 years old, why am I feeling this way? So there's just like so many different stories in theater that may not be, you might not hear otherwise if it wasn't for theater. Like it's just such a diverse outlet for anyone.
I think for me, and this is just all my own personal bullshit, and again, anytime I say any numbers or facts, they're all wrong. But they say there's something in the neighborhood of 17 stories and that's it. And everything else that you've heard is a variation of that. And I think growing up, when I first heard that statistic, it might even be 7 stories. It's very limited, right? And the idea is that if you ever come up with the 8th story or the 18th story, whatever it is, you'd be a billionaire because you'd be the first one to tell a story that was never told. And I always looked at that very cynically growing up as a teenager. I looked at everything very cynically growing up. I still kind of do. But I think the importance that theater puts on that is the idea that that's the importance. Yeah. Whatever your fucking story is, whatever your story is. But it matters, but it's no different than anyone else's. It's just one of the 17. And as much as we are individuals with our own individual like flavors on every one of those stories, there's anything different from you than anybody else. And I think that's probably the most important thing.
Bringing people together.
Yeah.
Bringing stories together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tell everybody when they can see the play.
So you can see Funhome at Cortisone Theater, 2520 Seminole Street, from August 31st to September 16th. Tickets are $25. You can buy them through our box office, or you can go online to cortisone.com. We also have an Eventbrite page that'll be launching very soon, so you can...
By the time this goes up, it'll be up.
Okay, so yes, you can go under Windsor and look up Funhome. We also have an Instagram, Funhome at Funhome Windsor, which we are doing giveaways and we have weekly updates all the time about things we're doing in the community and about our cast and crew. We have a live band, which is so exciting. Yeah, so exciting. So it's gonna be a great show. I'm very excited.
Perfect. All right, tune in later this week. We've got an amazing performance from this show. Thank you for hanging in.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, folks, that'll do it for this episode of the AVB Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to go down and click on the subscribe button to make sure that you can continue seeing our episodes as we put them out. We do a lot of videos, and there's a couple of them here that we hope you'll enjoy. There's one up there that we think you might like, and of course, there's one of our playlists down there for you. Make sure you say hello to some of our sponsors in the links down below while you're there, and of course, you can find links there to today's guest and all of our other social media. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next time.